Welcome, my friends. This is Maniacal Incorporated, and this is Polismos, an ancient Greek city builder with some interesting and unique mechanics which give it a bit more difficulty than your traditional city builders. This was released just a few weeks ago, and a big thank you to Composition GS, the devs, for sending me on a copy to check out. So there on the main menu screen in the background you would have seen the city of Opus, the tutorial city which I completed on Twitch. And there is a wide selection of starting cities all across the ancient Greek world to pick from. Or you could simply create your own city anywhere else that you want to. These cities all have ambitions and different resources, and you can decide the ambitions of the city for yourself if you create one. But if you're unsure where to start, some interesting starts have stars next to them. So I'm going to go for Sparta. And we can see that Sparta is a monarchy, and it's a recommended city. And its ambitions are to establish 3 tributaries. So we're going to have to go to war. We're going to need hoplites to do that. So they require bronze and armor. And we're going to need to build 2 minor temples. This is Spartan. This is very Spartan. There's not much going on at the moment here in Sparta. We can see across the top that we have public funds and private funds. These are gained in different ways. So we have 2 different types of funds to juggle. That's one of the interesting things. We have families. So we're not really going to be told a population count. We're going to be told how many families we have and which ones are happy and unhappy. We have authority, which is used for a variety of different things, predominantly for policies, but it's going to come into play in a variety of different areas. Legitimacy, which is going to be impacted by the happiness of the families. Trade power, which is a very interesting one. It's not simply like in Anno, we'll say, for example, where you just build ships and send them out on trade routes. You need to actually have trade power to maintain the import and export routes that you set up with neighboring cities. We have our military, which we will be looking at a lot as Sparta, and we have our consumption goods. And this is one of the unique constraints of this game. In something like Anno, you expand, expand, expand. That imposes a cost on you, so you just expand more to cover the cost. That's pretty much it. Here, as you expand, you have to provide consumption goods. To provide those consumption goods, you expand more, which means you need to provide even more consumption goods. So you're punished for overexpansion in a very interesting fashion. We'd better actually get to work and get some stuff done. The first thing we need to do is put down a Prytanion, and this opens up the whole view of the map to us. We have some water over here, but it is outside the building range, so we can just about see it here. So we don't actually have access to any water. We have stone, we have bronze, fantastic. We have timber, we have grapes, we have some olives, not a huge amount, and we have a lot of wheat. It's entirely possible that we're going to have to go and use that wheat. So I have a feeling we're going to start our city center right about here. So that is basically the center of the city. It can handle trade, has 2 trade power, and it has high appeal. So what we're going to want to do for that is we're going to want to put some houses in the vicinity of this building. So here are our urban buildings. We can see there is a townhouse, and it is an urban building, but it also needs other urban buildings nearby. So we can't just plop this down anywhere we want to. We have to put it right next to another urban building. And you can see that we can rotate. We can actually have them on angles. Now I'm going to put all the townhouses down around the Prytanion because they get a bonus from it. And then under our commerce screen, we'll get a market. So we have 4 buildings set to be built, and if we take a look at our consumption good, I need to select one, but when we build another 4 buildings, we need to provide another consumption good. So I need to get 2 of them up and running. If we go to our build menu and go to extraction and go for a logging camp, we can't build it because we do not have enough private funds. Now the helpful thing, I will unpause the game, the helpful thing is we can see that families are moving in and building up these townhouses, which is going to contribute some private funds, and this is going to allow us to start expanding. So we'd better get a logging camp down somewhere. Do you know what? It's not too far from us, so we'll put him down over here if we can find a place that will actually fit. So I wouldn't be able to put it here because there's no resource. So we can see that one of the families that's moved into the townhouse is now also moving into the logging camp. And by clicking on it, we're being told that there are requests for labor. So basically, the families who live in these townhouses are going to provide requests for labor from various different buildings as they go up. Now we need to wait for a few more of these houses to get finished because we need more private funds to get the stone quarry up and running. So stone and wood are the essentials to start building early on. And with our marketplace built, which is where goods are going to be taken to, we've opened up a second consumption good, and we're now 5 buildings away from the next one. So there's building number 1. The quarry is going to be number 2. Bronze is number 3. The armory is number 4, and we're going to need to get some farms up and running. So for agriculture, and the interesting thing here is we can see at the bottom, the total cost is 0, but the new family is actually going to provide public funds to our coffers. So we could do one of 2 things. We could create a grain field, which would be taken over by an existing family, or we could create a grain farm, which acts as an actual new family home, as we can see there. Now, they're telling us that we need stone. We have a chunk of stone at the moment. So we will, to keep everything going, we'll maybe push it out the way it's not too close to the city centre. Lovely, organic, straight roads. And because a family has moved in and has started to use the wheat farm, has taken over the wheat farm, I'm in a position to get a stone quarry up and running. Now, one of our goals is to get 3 tributaries, so we're going to need to go to war. And to go to war, we need an army. So where do we build our army? Where are the military buildings? Are they under administration? Commerce? No. Each townhouse that we build will basically provide soldiers. So we can see here that this family is training. They can, because they're an elite family, and they own a number of different buildings, they give us +1 archer, and it's taking 34 days to train soldiers. So the more houses we build, basically, our townspeople contribute to our military, and it'll be placed here in our town centre. And if we want more information on the families, we can take a look at this one in particular. Controls a townhouse, a logging camp, and a stone quarry. Now, as we're looking at here, the ability to glorify, so we could glorify this family, they would gain 3 happiness for 1 year. That will cost us 4 authority, which we don't have at the moment. We're gaining 0.25 per month, and we can build certain buildings and do things that will give us authority. Because of our system of government, we can glorify this family as a monarchy. If we were to change to some of the other forms of government, we would have different options. And those options are contained here in our policies screen. So we're a monarchy. We could switch to an oligarchy. It would take 10 authority and 10 months. And then here are the policies that we have. And there's a couple of important ones that we're going to want to get. We're going to want the trade program, which will give us 6 trade power and increased government expenses. But that should be enough trade power, I think, to cover an import and an export route. And the other thing we're going to want to do is road standards to decrease the cost of road maintenance. Because at the moment, roads are costing us not a whole heap, 38, but that's going to grow and grow and grow as we build more and more and more. Now, our city also has research, effectively research and innovations, and our families are going to contribute a different amount of knowledge or progress to civics, trade, and culture, and this is going to unlock, so this would unlock the library, building, and learning centers policy. This would unlock trade, and this would unlock the theater building. So our ambitions, we have to build 2 minor temples. So if we want the temples, I think we're going to have to. I don't know, do we get the minor temples straight off? It looks like we do. So we don't actually need to worry too much about that. We can get the enhanced training policy. We can get militarism as a policy, which we might need. And there's +2 authority for civic excellence. So do you know what? We're going to focus on civic. This is going to cost us authority. And we'll see that now there's a much greater amount of progress going into civic innovation, so they're going to get done faster. So looking under religion and culture, we can see a bit of an issue. This is a public building, so it will use the public funds, 1,100. We have 375, but we can go into a maximum debt of 1,000. The only problem is it's going to cost marble, and we do not produce marble on this map at all. So to get marble, what we're going to have to do is come over to the world view. We have our little menu down in the bottom right. I want to buy marble. So this is going to show all the neighboring areas that we could trade with. So it would be 2 trade power to buy marble. And it would be 4 trade power to sell olive oil. So I think it's pretty much the same. It's always going to be 2 to import and 4 to export. And we can see that various different places want various different things. We have their opinion of us. And we're going to have, if we want to trade with, way up here. We cannot because they are outside of our trade range. So there are certain buildings that will allow us to increase our trade range. I'd say we're A-okay with what we have in the surrounding area. We also need to try and figure out people to make tributaries of. So these guys have a military of 2. We have a military of 6 at the moment, but we're going to wait until we get our hoplites up and running before we start, literally up and running, before we start attacking anyone. Now, I was actually going to hold off for a while. I was actually going to import cloth from Argos, but I am indeed going to go ahead and try and get a marble import route going. So I'm going to click on this, and we now have 1 of 3 trade power available. And I think if we click here, we can see all of our import and export routes. And the interesting thing is that this actually takes private funds. We're actually going to need private funds to process the trade. So it's possible that if our private funds fall low enough that we won't be able to import anything. So we're shoving on through September. If we take a look at our goods, we have 7 grain, we have 6 labor available, we have 1 marble, so marble is coming in slowly, we have 18 stone, we have some wood. The distance from our resources to the market, that actually counts for something. So the longer it takes these guys to deliver, the longer it's going to be before the goods show up in our resources pile. But now that we're actually getting in some grain, I'm going to click on this consumption demand and set it to grain. Because we can see at the moment that we have some family concerns, unassigned consumption good. So that's making some people unhappy. And there's no actual hunger or starvation or anything like that in this game. Basically, you just provide the families with the consumption goods that they want. And if you fail to do that, they become unhappy. I'm sure they won't do anything if they're unhappy. What would the Spartans do to their government if they were unhappy with them? I don't think they do much. So right off the bat, I think what we're going to do is actually begin prepping the next consumption good. So we're going to go for a grape farm, because I believe we have a good chunk of grapes up in this region. So we'll probably... I'm trying to avoid some of the other stuff. So we have some timber around, we have some olives around, so I would like to. It's going to be very difficult to get those olives and get anything else. The olives will pretty much block out the ability to get any of the other wood, so I'm going to try and maybe... We'll drop this down here. Somewhere. Now that we have our grape farm up and running, once we grow some grapes, I'll be able to use those as a consumption good to keep everyone happy. I'll also be able to make wine, which is another consumption good. We can actually get the full list of consumption goods across the top. So olives and olive oil, grapes and wine, fish, meat, cloth, pottery, recreation, and religion. So we can provide recreation to the people instead of... basically, we can provide services as a consumption good. We can get cloth from wool. We can either import it, or we can grow sheep, raise sheep, and get the wool and convert it into cloth. But what I'm going to focus on is waiting until we have some grapes, setting that up as a consumption good, and I think we can, right now, start expending. So you don't want to expend too fast, but we will start into, if I am correct, it is a mine, which is going to mine bronze. And we might as well set it up here. And actually, if I take a look at the urban buildings, we should see that we have an armorer. So we could put the armorer there on that angle right next to the mine. Well, we can't because we don't have the money at the moment, but it also needs other urban buildings. So we're actually going to have to place it in this kind of urban center. So it is an urban building, so it provides urban around it. I don't know if it'll actually show up. So that little icon, the little house, indicates that it's an urban building. So we can place this building adjoining any of those. There are a few buildings that would allow you. So the minor port. We can see it's an urban building, but it does not require to be next to an urban building. So if we had water, we could put this down, and then we could put townhouses beside it, and we could build not really a new city, but because this is effectively a city-state, but kind of a new urban district. We've gotten some authority together. Militarism might be a handy one to go for, but we need to unlock international relations first of all, so we might as well start off. I don't think the road costs are through the roof at the moment, but you know what, we might as well start early on. Road standards, minus 25% road maintenance cost, so it costs 8 authority, and it will enact after 8 months. And we can see that there are no families that care one way or another about the policy. A property tax, on the other hand, would upset, I think it's the people that settled in the grape farm. And an elite tax would upset what I think is our one and only elite family. I wonder why. So you have to, as you're setting up these policies, some families are actually in favour of them, in favour of trade. But as you're setting up these policies, you have to see how they're going to impact the families. Oh, and here's another issue that I forgot about. Hovering over our goods, we can see that hearts are in a supply of -1. First of all, grapes are up and running, so we can provide grapes just as a new consumption good opens up. Healthcare is needed. So clinics provide 4 healing, but of course they count as a building, and once we get another 5 buildings built, we're up to another consumption good. So we need to provide this one. It needs to be next to an urban district, but I'm keeping around the city centre free for townhouses. Now here in the corner, we've just gotten a pop-up. Sacrifices, so these are events that pop up from time to time. The devout families of the city have become convinced that a horrible fate will befall us unless a great sacrifice is made to the gods. Prepare the altars or we'll be fine. So all devout families lose 1 happiness for a year. So the devout families are our elite family. We have a brand new elite, actually. But the protogenes are a devout family. And Antiphon. So the green icons are intellectual families. Kimon is a industrious family, and then Xenon is a trade family, which makes sense because they wanted that trade policy in place. So 100 public funds go on, prepare the altars. Now at the moment we're hampered by a lack of trade power, and I'm not really in a position to build anything that will give me more trade power. There is a trade depot, and that will, I think that's under urban, that will give me 1 trade power, so I would need to build 3 of them to get the 4 trade power needed to export something, and that would drive us up to another consumption good. So I am at the moment holding off, I think, for the minor temple. It's pricey. I could start building it, but what we're going to do instead is back to our urban buildings, and we are looking for the armorer. And I suppose, do you know what, that makes sense. We'll place that right next to the clinic. Oh, you divils, you knew that I'm not in a position to meet these demands. Every once in a while, your citizens can issue you a demand. And the mercantile families, they want to see an increase in our trading ability. So they want a trade building. So either that Stoa, which would provide me with 4, but I don't actually have it researched yet, or I think we might be close to researching it, or just a random trade depot, which isn't going to be very beneficial and is going to drive up that consumption good need, and we are kind of running out of an ability to provide consumption goods at the moment. What I can do is I can spend 5 authority, that is hefty, to extend it for a year. We have formalized commerce, so if I take a look at that, the Grand and the Minor Stoa, and the Minor Stoa is very expensive. Now, I don't think we have a whole heap of mercantile families. We have 1. Do you know what? I'd say you'll be doing without your Stoa. She can do without the Stoa tonight. So now that we have our armory up and running, we can see that there is demand for labor and for bronze, and then they're every once in a while offering armor, and we might be seeing that the military numbers are changing up here. It was 7, 12, and 0. It's now gone to 9 and 3, so we have 9 spearmen and 3 hoplites, and we actually have a task to get to 20 hoplites, so we need to expand the population of the city significantly. If there was a war, if there was a battle, if we were invaded, I would click here, and it brings out our squads, and we can actually move them around. It's actually left click, which I don't massively like, to move them. So out they go. So these are our hoplites, our spearmen at the back, and our archers, and then we can withdraw them back to the city. That's where they spend all their time as they're waiting for battles. So people can invade, people can attack from off map. They will have 1 point of entry. We can see the potential invasion points, and we can put up watchtowers. We don't have walls. So we have some new buildings up. We have a winery. The winery produces 11 wine per year. The only problem is that the grape farm produces 6 grapes. So it looks like we're going to have to put down another grape farm, and that's going to knock us up onto another consumption level. So now, because of one of the demands that we have failed, we have a very unhappy house, and you know what? I'm actually thinking, with the way things are going, it might actually have been a good idea to have built that 1 trade depot, and to have... that would give me 2 trade power, and I could import more grapes, and I could have probably imported grapes instead of growing them. But I think we're getting 12 grapes, consuming 11 here, so I still need more grapes. I need more grapes. Which is why we're going to begin the construction. This is going to be a hefty process of a minor temple. Now, it doesn't actually show me where the front of the temple is. That was the front of the temple. So the two houses here to the left, they're going to significantly get happier by placing that there. This would make those ones happy. So there isn't much of a range. Well, that's not good news. The city has been hit with a drought. Our once fertile soil has turned to dust due to exceptionally little rainfall. All production of grain, olives, and grapes is halved this year. Well, that's fantastic. So with our food dying in the ground, it is time that we begin to prepare our armies to march out from Sparta and establish tributaries who will support our growing city. I'm going to introduce the policy of militarism, so it will cost no authority to attack nearby cities. We'll have -1 opinion with all nearby cities, however, and our martial families will gain +1 permanent happiness. And at the moment we only have 1 militant family, but we will enact this. That's going to keep them happy as well. And in 5 months' time, we will have that policy enacted. And it's entirely possible that our military's first demonstration will not be on foreign soil, but on our own. A city is demanding that we pay them 425 public funds. I always forget which one's public and private. We will refuse. And indeed, there we go. They have launched an invasion. So they intend to make us their tributary. Their hubris is sickening. And what an auspicious moment it is for them to invade, just as we have gotten our minor temple up and running. And we can see that the minor temple is state-owned, so it was financed out of public funds, whereas the townhouses then actually belong to a family. So they're not financed out of private funds. I think they contribute private funds. So an invasion is imminent, and we can see that the invasion is occurring from the north. I was hoping that we'd actually get this other townhouse up and running and that we'd get some more troops trained. But we have 15 hoplites and 9 archers, so we can select all and march them in the direction. So it's a bit like Total War, I suppose. If the enemy can get to our city centre, they will begin basically trying to take it over, this black circle. And we can put watchtowers there. They're the only defensive buildings that we have. So what we can try and do is get our archers up here onto this ridge. We can't really put them in a formation or anything like that. And get the hoplites and put them on the low ground. And actually, they've came in a lot faster than I was expecting. So we're losing a chunk of the hoplites. Their spearmen are trying to get to our archers and are getting a bad baiting. Our hoplites are taking heavy losses from their archers. That's the only problem. I wasn't really telling you to actually walk up there. So there's no real targeting of the enemies. You just kind of get them into range. It's a victory, but a costly one. And so we can see that slowly more soldiers are being trained. It's going to take a while to get the army back up to where it was. The city's one and only mercantile family is making more demands to revoke the tariffs policy, which is applying a 20% tax on imports and exports taken from private funds. So anytime we import or export anything, there is a tariff taken out of the private funds and transferred to the public funds. The two families, so Xenon, which would be our one and only mercantile family, and another, they're not too happy. Do you know what? We'll revoke. because if we ever need to do so, we do actually have ways of moving private funds to the public funds, or the other way around. Emergency tax does require authority, however. So every once in a while, if the public funds get too low, we can head in here into the private funds and pillage them. So tariffs have been revoked, which is not exactly something that I was too pushed about. We have all consumption demands met at the moment. I would like to try and start exporting something, and like I said, we're going to need a minor stoa for that, so I think I'm going to throw one down. We're going to need to put it in an urban area. So I'm not doing much in the line of beauty building, as can be seen. And we do have some decorations. So we have an Elysian garden, which is a wonder. Provides a lot of entertainment. Costs a lot of money. It would put me into debt of over 1,000, so I can't actually even click on it at the moment. We have a monument. We have then purely decorative items, and these ones then actually contribute high appeal. 3 opinion with all nearby cities, but it's a locked wonder. So basically by carrying out these ambitions and doing certain things, you can unlock some of the wonders through the game. So I think this is the first and only one that I've unlocked so far. That would be fantastic for Sparta. Militant, expansionist Sparta. I was trying to figure out why we were getting extra trade power, why we'd gone from 1 out of 3 to 2 out of 4, and that is because our mercantile families are also giving us trade power, and a new mercantile family has arrived in Sparta. As has the plague. And our trade power has grown even further with the Stoa up and running. We do have an unhappy family, for some reason. Now, health is low because we have a lot of people getting sick. Bronze is probably the only thing that I could consider exporting, and I think that's what I might try to do, is export some bronze. First of all, we have debt relief to deal with, and this is actually the family that's very unhappy, or that was unhappy. They've been faced with some debts. We can spare 100 out of the public funds. With our newly expanded trade capacity, I was hoping that we would be able to trade some bronze, that we would be able to export bronze. These are the only local areas that will take it. These ones are outside of our range. This one is just barely. There's maybe a policy that I can get to change that. However, the opinion is -2, so that's going to be problematic. Here's our neighbours, our nice friendly neighbours who just attacked us. They'll take our bronze, but the opinion is too low, so we actually can't export bronze to anyone at the moment. So we have a lot of very angry cities nearby, and I'm going to have to implement +3 opinion with all nearby cities, +10 diplomatic expenses. We're going to have to implement embassies, or we will have no trading partners. We're 1 building away from going up onto the next consumption level, so I thought it might be a good idea if that consumption level was dealt with through entertainment. So our Elysian Garden Wonder, 14 entertainment per year. It looks like a pretty small building. I think it would fit nicely here just in front of our city centre. Oh wait, no. It's also a very hefty expenditure in marble, in labour, and a lot of other stuff. So I think what I'll do instead is put this place in, stick it there, and that will give us... I'm not in a position to put another one right next to it. That will give us some entertainment. And you know what? I might put some trees or something. I don't like the fact that that it'll kind of kick you out of the menu once you put a tree or once you put a building down. A request has been accepted. Now, I'm not too sure what that request is. I accidentally clicked a button, and it looks like I've demanded funding off of a neighbouring city. I was wondering if I could demand that they become tributaries, but it doesn't look like it. You have to go and fight them. We're still running a bit low on grapes, and we need another 1 hoplite. So I've created a brand new grape farm. And thankfully, the family that moved in is a militant family. So they are martial, is maybe the better way to put it. So this is a family of tough soldiers who see glory in battle as life's greatest gift, plus 1 spearman / hoplite. So that's fantastic. The devoted families give 1 happiness, possibly to themselves, I'm not too sure. The enterprising families, plus 2 to private funds contribution. The trade family gives trade power. The intellectual contributes to getting through this stuff faster, and I think that's all the families. So we have a huge amount of public funds at the moment. It would cost me a lot of authority to move a significant amount of that over, but what I could try and do is use it to build a theatre, which costs 2,200. And that loud exclamation is the first of our ambitions achieved. We have 20 hoplites. So that's going to provide all families with 1 happiness for 1 year. And I imagine that we have a couple of other soldiers to get trained up here. It's going to take a while. We might hold on though. And somebody else has other ideas about where our funding should be spent. All families will lose 1 happiness for 3 years if we do not obey the demand for a gym. How much is that going to cost us? 14 recreation, 1,300, 25 stone, 15 wood. That's going to take a while. That is going to take a while. We're in a position to at least see how large of an area it's going to take up. Doesn't fit anywhere sensibly at the moment. I was planning on kind of using this area for housing to get the bonus from the city centre. Now this would give off a bonus of its own. I could redirect that road around it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to push the deadline out for a year. And that will allow us an opportunity to begin our expansionist conquest. So here is Sparta. Here is a military 6 area, which is quite hefty. A military 4, and this is what I was looking at, a military 2. We are going to attack. This is going to cost us 100 funds. We will send all our soldiers to attack the city. If the attack is successful, it becomes a tributary. This will upset all nearby cities. Their military is vastly weaker than ours. The chance of victory is therefore extremely high. And there they go. They've all left the city. Off they go. The brave soldiers. What few are left from our first campaign, or the first defense that we carried out here. And that didn't take long. Apparently, victory. Today is a glorious day. Our invasion was a success. And we're actually in a position to change the tribute that we get from them. I'm going to put it to wood, because we are actually falling low on wood, and we are in a position where I was thinking about actually expanding our logging camps, which would put strain on our consumption. Now, these guys actually, oh yeah, because I went to +1 status with everyone around us, but most places now are going to not be impressed. So here is an opinion 0. Might try and turn that frown upside down by making them a tributary of ours. Our victorious army returns, and I'm building a kind of a thoroughfare for them with columns to mark their victory. Hell's bells, this thing is pricey, but if it's what the people want, it's what the people will get. And it's a good thing that the army has returned. And it's a good thing that I've started building more townhouses, because Argos, who I was actually going to start trading armor with, have made a demand. We will refuse. It's going to bring us near to our spending limit. Very near to our spending limit. But I'm going to stick up this tower. here on what kind of functions as approaching the border. And just as we have so many private funds, and as our public funds are getting very close to the max debt, I am actually going to impose an emergency tax, just to give us a bit of clearance. Because we can see that some of the families have started to worry about the public debt. The fact that public funds are so low, so that is -1 happiness for 1 year for one of the families. It's a good thing I actually extended the construction for a year, because we have most of what we need, we're just short of stone. It's a bit late to get construction fees, 50 public taxes raised per private construction, so as we'd be building these and private homes, the public taxes would be going up by 50. If we were to impose an elite tax, it would upset 3 families. We would get 252 funds per year and -72 to the private funds. But we're getting a huge amount of private funds at the moment. We're going to upset 3 families. I have a feeling, well, they're the happiest families in the city, so do you know what? We can upset them because we need the money. Now, it doesn't look like they're going to come and attack us, but I am still a bit worried about Argos. Their opinion is -1, their military is 6, and we're going to have to attack 2 other cities in this region, so that's going to upset them even further. So what I'm going to try and do is see if we can form an alliance with this city. So we have the same form of government, they have a weaker military, and they have a positive opinion. Somebody who demanded a gymnasium is worried that the city is in debt trying to build a gymnasium. That alliance has been accepted, which means that if we are attacked by Argos, then some of these forces will be sent to our city to help in the defense. And because we're running a bit low as our city grows on grain, I can actually go right back to them and buy some grain from them. Even though we have a plethora of potential grain growing areas, it's still actually more advantageous for me at the moment to simply use my trade power, which has grown significantly as a result of more mercantile families arriving, so we're up to 3 now. It's actually more beneficial to use that trade power to bring in grain than it is to grow it here. There we go, we have our elite tax implemented, so that's going to piss off some people and hopefully get this debt covered, because there's a lot of people that are very unhappy about it. And I've also actually changed the tribute that we're bringing in to money, because we have enough timber for all of our buildings. Stone. We're badly cut for stone at the moment. So far too late, I have started trying to build another stone quarry. We're not... There you go. Utter failure. 30 days to get a big chunk of stone together. That's not gonna work. So we're gonna fail this this mission, unfortunately. So 2 years. I thought we'd have plenty time to get the gymnasium built, but we have fallen down on stone. Demand has failed, and we're going to have unhappiness across the city for a period of time. So we put ourselves significantly into debt. We've made a lot of families unhappy because of that, and now because we failed to build the gym on time, in time for summer, everyone's unhappy again. And there we go. We finally get it built. A few months too late. What Sparta needs to distract its people is another war. We will move to the south and attack our neighbours. Extremely high chance of victory. Our second conquest has been a success. Here, the army returns, marching along the little thoroughfare that I've built for them. We'll put up more columns to commemorate their second victory. And it's time, I think, to start thinking about the end game. So, one more tributary, and we have that ambition accomplished, and one more temple, and I have that ambition accomplished. Who's blaming the state? Somebody's blaming the state for the drought. We can offer compensation, or say it's nonsense. Go on, we'll offer some compensation, and then implement 2 bouts of emergency taxes. Our citizens are making another demand. We failed to build a gymnasium. They want me to revoke poll taxes. Not a hope in hell. Poll taxes are pretty much the only thing that's actually generating any money. So that would put us in a bad spot of bother if we were to get rid of the poll taxes. So when the game starts, there are 2 policies enacted. Tariffs and the poll tax. So 4 in tax per family. Private fund contribution is reduced by 2 for affected families. So you get less private funds, but you get more public funds. And look at that, isn't that typical? Everyone is in favour of having it revoked. Some people are making demands of us. Unreasonable brutes. I'm going to refuse. I think they're a level 6 as well. We've gone up to level 6, and we also have allies. So if they do attack us, we should be able to see them off. So I got 2 new buildings built, including a new townhouse, which has increased our consumption demands. So I've set it to fish and started importing fish. And we got our temple up and running, which has given us our second of our ambitions. I'm going to wait just for a few moments to see if there are any attacks on us, and if not, we will go for our third ambition. While I was trying to get the gymnasium finished, I paused the watchtower and completely forgot to unpause it, so it's just sitting there unbuilt, but it doesn't look like it's going to be needed. Our enemies know what will be done to them if they try to attack us, and so we will march out to another poorly defended area. Do you know what? This one actually has stone. So we'll have wood, marble, and stone from our 3 tributaries. Off the army sets, ignoring the nice road that I built for them. And one of our neighbours has ended a trade deal with us because their opinion has fallen so low as we continue our expansion into neighbouring city-states. And just like that, the army is triumphant. Our victorious army returns home. We receive a ton of tribute. And Sparta has completed its ambitions. Have the 3 tributaries, 20 hoplites. I think we lost 2. I think we had 24. And build our 2 minor temples. And here come our brave hoplites marching through the city, and there's absolutely nothing to stop us from continuing on with the game. Building more buildings. I haven't seen half of what's here. I've built very few administration buildings. So there's an academy, which is a wonder. There's the Bulletarion. There's more wonders, bridges. So I could continue building on. There's no need to stop now that I've met the ambitions, but I'm pretty happy to call it there. I'm pretty happy with what we've created, and to move on to another city that has even greater ambitions than those of Sparta. So depending on where you start as, its ambitions are a kind of a guide for the direction that your city is going to go in. There was absolutely no need to meet those ambitions. I could have gone off in any direction that I wanted to, but this has, for me, been a dramatically different playthrough to the one that I did on Twitch as Opus, the tutorial city, and I'd be interested to see what some of the other cities are going to be like. The ones that are going to focus more on trade, the ones that are going to focus more on getting some of the bigger administrative buildings up. I know that some cities have it as a goal to change their politics to a democracy. I think Athens wants to change to a democracy. So we would upset 4 families if we were to try and do that now. And heading back to the main screen, we get some lovely aerial shots of Sparta at the peak of its glory. I really like what Polismos is trying to do, and how it's trying to differentiate itself from your regular city builders, which is expand, 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 expand. I like the way that expansion is constrained here. Like I said at the start, there's usually a cost, but it's a cost that's very easy to get around through more expansion. Here, any amount of expansion was going to be hit with demands for increased consumption, and at times I wasn't able to provide that fully, and I had to find other ways of keeping the citizens happy. So I really like the differences from the general city builder. I like the way that there's a number of different challenges and kind of goals and ambitions for guiding the way that your cities grow from city to city. I'm not too sure if somebody would get through every single city on the map. I'm not too sure if there's enough kind of content to keep you occupied to get through all of the cities, but I'm going to get a couple of more playthroughs done. I was delighted to get a kind of a military playthrough done. The Opus playthrough is pretty much just learning the ropes, so I'd be interested to see what a more kind of a trade-focused city would look like going forward. Again, a big thank you to the devs, Composition GS, for sending me on a key to check this out. I thoroughly enjoyed it, and thank you all for joining me on this episode, and I hope that you will join me on the next one to replace the hoplites that I lost in these wars.